Okay, so where we left off, you had a man walking down the road towards the wagon. You had Brett and the woman in red were meeting up at the back, talking about a map and getting into the wizard's castle. In the front of the wagon, you had um, Circi and Jack, and they were waiting to find out what was going on with Jill in the back, who's the lady in red. Right? And then
With
overhead,
the
who,
shackles.
who is overhead?
Not Circe, it's the barn owl girl.
It's Bixby.
Bixby, yeah.
Bixby was flying overhead. So, walking down the road is a guy. He's normal height, but yeah, let's see. I'm not sure if I ever gave him a height. So let's say he is 5'10", normal-ish, and he's wearing some. Let's see. He's wearing. Do you guys know what dungarees are?
No.
It's like jeans. It's like jeans, right? So he's wearing these jeans, and he's wearing a kind of like a peasant shirt, very loose, and he's walking down the road. He's walking towards the wagon. As he starts to get close, the two people in the front, Circe and Jack, recognize him. They kind of look at each other and they look back at him. And Jack looks at Circe and he says, "Is that Moontosser?" He says, "I think it is. We lost him back when we were facing the giant. He ran off in the woods." I thought, well, I didn't think we'd ever see him again, but it looks like he found us. For a while, this guy's walking up towards him. Sure enough, it's their old friend Moontosser. He's the sailor. He used to be on a ship. And then that ship was hit by a typhoon, a magic typhoon that was caused by the wizard. His ship capsized, and he's made his way to land, and then was shortly taken up by Circe and Jack later on. So he's been traveling with them ever since. He's been traveling with them for years. But a couple months back, when they were in the what was it, the Giant's Forest, and they were trying to get into the Giant's cabin, the Giant's house, they were separated, and they haven't seen him since. So Moontosser's been missing for a couple months. They had no idea where he was, and they couldn't find him. But as he gets closer, sure enough, it's their old friend. So he walks up and sees them in the wagon. His eyes get big. He gets excited. He says, "Oh my gosh! I didn't think I'd ever find you guys again." And he tells them the same thing. They were separated when the giant was chasing them, and they he wandered off. He couldn't find them. They couldn't find him, and he doesn't tell them that he was actually taken, and he was taken to the wizard's tower, where the wizard had planted. So this is from an earlier part of the story that you didn't hear about. This is what the older kids heard about this. You didn't hear about this.
Was I not born?
So what?
Was I not born?
No, you were born. You just hadn't heard about it. I didn't start telling this story until you were already 4, I think.
Wait.
Okay, that's not okay. Don't do that again. So
I got you.
So he was taken and brought to the wizard's tower by the wizard, where the wizard put a spell on him. And he was supposed to bring Circe and Jack to the wizard so that he could deal with them personally, because they were causing problems for him. They already caused issues disrupting his supply lines, and they had gotten in the way of some guards that he was trying to put in position to be more influential in a certain kingdom. They had messed that plan up. So they start talking, and then Brett and Jill come around the front, and they're going to start to, and they start to have a conversation about their plans for the future and the map and who this Circi guy is, because apparently they have heard of him, not of him specifically, but of a guy that was supposed to. There was a not a prophecy exactly, but a tale that there would be someone that would rival the wizard.
Is it a tall tail?
Yeah, it's a tale.
Is it a short tail?
So he comes over. So Brett comes over and says, "So," and looking around, he sees the largest one of the three. He says, I assume that you are this Circe that my Jill here has told me about." So she looks down at him and from up on the wagon. Says, yeah, that's me. What can I do for you? Why were you chasing us? What seems to be going on here? It appears that you and our compatriot here had a previous relationship, and that it's affecting our business as it was currently. So Brett thinks about this for a second. He says, well, it's true. Me and Jill do have a history. We were together for a long time. We actually helped form my group, form my gang, and we were partners until we had a falling out, and she stole something from me and ran away. Circe thinks about this and says, well, it appears that that's been going around. I've heard from both you and the last town that we were at that she's raided the coffers of quite a few unsuspecting people and made quite a few enemies. Yeah, she's a thief. She steals stuff.
Lots of things.
So
I wonder what things she stole.
you wonder what things she stole? No, she stole a bunch of stuff. But the things that Brett cares about is that they did a job together and she took the map, which was one of the things that they stole. And
She's stolen.
yeah.
And she's mad about that.
So, about this time, Jill realizes that there's an extra person in the conversation and says, guys, who's this and where did he come from? The new guy looks down and he says, well, I'm actually an old friend of these two. I've traveled with them for quite some time. We got separated, but I found my way back, it appears, out of just dumb luck or fate, whatever it is. But I'm here now, and my question would be, not who am I, but who are you? Because I don't remember you, and I've been with them for quite some time. So, Jill looks around. Everyone's staring at her at this point. She says, well, they call me Jill. And I just recently met these two. You're right. There's a reason that you wouldn't have known of me. But since that time, they've been very generous to me. They got me out of some trouble a couple times. And I think we can be useful to each other. He thinks about it and he says, well, if you're friends of my friends, then you're friends of mine. I am Moontosser. I'm an out-of-work sailor. And with any help, I'll be able to get back to my job someday, get a ship of my own, sail the seas with the wind in my face. But right now, I'm simply a poor an out-of-work beggar. And these two took pity on me. They fed me, they clothed me, they took care of me. And for that, I owe them. What sort of adventures do we have in mind going forward? Circe grumbles a little bit, but doesn't say anything. Now, Jack, he's not really sure what's going on, but he has an idea that the other two, well, the other several, have some plan. So he waits for them. And Brett says, well, my plan is to bring down the reign of the Archmage that has brought death and despair to these lands and has hurt so many people. I know that there are many that are loyal to his guard, and if you find yourself in that company, then I wish no quarrel with you. But it is my mission. It is my goal to see this through so that we can be out from under the yoke of his oppression. Well, Circe kind of hears this and perks up. He hadn't really talked to Brett before, except for a quick conversation. And he says, so, what business do you have with the wizard? Why would you wish for this? He says, oh, I've traveled quite far, and I've seen many, many lands, many families, many areas that have suffered under the despotic rule, the cruel rule, tyrannical rule of the Archmage. He wasn't always like this when he was part of the council. Now, one time, many years ago, there was a council of mages. There's several towers around, and each mage had their own tower, and they all discussed things that happened within their kingdoms. None of them ruled over anyone. They all acted as counselors and guides, wise men, collectors of knowledge. But something changed, something happened, and a war broke out between them. At the end of it, only one of them was left alive. We think. Not entirely sure.
The kingdom or the people?
No. The people are still there, but only one of the mages, only one of the wizards is still around that anybody knows of. They haven't seen the others in a long time.
Sad.
So they know that there was some sort of conflict. There was an issue back and forth between several of them, and now one of them put together an army and has subjugated the greater land. He's taken it over as the sole ruler over the other rulers. So there's several little rulers, but he's in charge of everybody.
So he's the big ruler.
He's in charge of everybody, yeah. He's the one that's pulling the strings at the very, very top.
No.
So, Moontosser hears this and says, well, that seems like a rather selfless goal for someone of your line of work, meaning a thief. You know. He says, why do you have such an interest in this? Why aren't you simply taking what you can and finding a place of your own? He says, well, I've tried that. But,
What is he talking to?
so this is Moontosser, and he's talking to Brett. So Moontosser says that's kind of a noble goal for a thief. Why would you want to do this? And Brett says, well, I've tried to hide. I've tried to make my life by myself. But somehow it always comes up that whatever my plans are, however peacefully I try and live, it always gets thwarted. Something always comes up. Someone always gets in the way. I just want to live my life and settle down if I can. But until you can earn an honest living, until the taxes are lower, until food is plentiful and not stolen for the army of the Archmage. There's little hope for those who don't have property or land or power, and even for them, they exist under the thumb of the Archmage. So as much as I would love to just find a place and set up there, every time I've tried, I found myself thrown right back into this, which is why I went through all the trouble to find out where he was in the first place, how to find the mage, and why I learned the history of his order and where he'd come from and who he was fighting with. So, at this point, they decide that it is in their interest to all travel together, at least for a little while, and they are going to head back to Brett's camp with the now 6 of his men. The one that got knocked out was retrieved, brought back to his horse. They got their wrench back. And he says, look, you know, as long as we work together, as long as we're working for the same goals, we're friends.
Random things they were throwing at him.
Random things they were throwing. So I can't promise you that we're going to be companions tomorrow, but today
We are.
we'll work together and we'll be a team. As long as our goals are aligned. And if that day comes where they're not, I will do my best to let you know and give you safe passage ahead of time as long as we part on good terms. So they think about this and they decide, you know, it's help we didn't have before, so we're gonna take it. They all talk amongst themselves. Moontosser is welcomed back into the group with open arms, and they all start making their way to Brett's camp. And that is where we're gonna stop. On the way to Brett's camp, which is in a hidden location, so that he does not get found out and does not get in trouble by the authorities, because he is an outlaw, he's a criminal, and now he is with another criminal, his ex-girlfriend, who is Jill, and Circi and Jack have already broken out of prison once, so they're not exactly on good terms with the law. So I think the only one that's not an actual criminal here is Moontosser, and he's kind of a little ruffian. So, but okay, so that's where we're gonna leave off. We'll pick up again next time.